All right, and welcome in, everybody. Hope you all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shoemake, and this is the Shoemake Take. I don't know why I was doing this. What's this? One's like this and one's like this. That makes no sense. It's either gotta be like this or gotta be like this. I normally do it like this. I don't know why I just did that halfway. Very interesting cognition error right there by me. So, welcome in, everybody. Like I said, hope y'all are having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. Today, we got to talk about the Los Angeles Rams headed back to the big city of LA. We talked about the Chargers here, and now we are back to talk about the Rams and how I think they are going to be very, very, very dangerous in 2025. So, here's one thing before we start about this video. This is the second time I've had to do this. If you watched my 49ers video, then you would know. But if you didn't know, I accidentally deleted the footage for this video by accident. I was trying to get rid of some storage on my phone, getting rid of some old recordings that I had, and this one happened to be in the mix. I thought I already put it on my computer. Turns out I did not. And when I realized it, I was kicking myself because the first time I did this video, I thought it was one of the best ones I ever done in the 2025 preview series in its entirety. So I'm going to try my best to recreate that. I'm going to shoot for that. And I hope that I can just live up to that expectation for myself. So we're going to try that. We're going to go for it. I'm confident in myself. Let's see what happens. With that being said, let's begin talking about the Rams, are getting ready to talk about the Rams. If you want to go ahead and jump into the discussion, the timestamp is in the video description. So if you don't want to hear me explain how the series works, you're already aware, you're caught up to speed, go right ahead, knock yourself out. I will not be mad at you. Maybe a little bit, though. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not going to be mad at you. You're fine. Go ahead and jump to the discussion if you want to. But for those of you that want to know how this series works, that don't know how it works, here's what we're breaking down. So we're going to briefly recap 2024. What was each team's record? What happened? And then we'll jump into the offseason, look at the most notable offseason news, break down free agency, what each team added, what they lost. Then we'll jump into the draft, break down each pick individually and how I overall think about the draft class, if I like it, don't like it, whatnot. And then after that, we will go into the schedule. We'll go game by game and look at the most easiest stretches, the toughest stretches, the most important matchups, and everything in between. And then after that, I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts on how I feel about each team. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? Are they going to be mid? What are their strengths and weaknesses positionally? Excuse me. And then after that, we will wrap up the whole thing, giving you guys my official record prediction and then looking at some storylines that I will be looking for in 2025. So that being said, let's talk about the Rams. Let's talk about the Rams. I'm sorry. I like making myself crack up sometimes. So let's jump into it, shall we? So looking back for the Rams in 2024, after a rough first half to the year, they started 2-4 going into their bye week. Came out of the bye week, were absolutely a much different team. They were a lot better. They ended up finishing 10-7 and made a really strong case for themselves in the divisional round. Looking at the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl run last year, they beat the crap out of every single team except the Rams. And the Rams were just only competitive against the Eagles. They could have beat them. They were in position to win this game. They had a lead in this game. The Rams were probably the best team all year to face a fully powered Eagles team and give them a run for their money. It was actually a really good job, I thought. And despite all the adversity, they kept on fighting. They kept on coming back. And that is a testament to their roster. That's a testament to Sean McVay and his coaching staff. And also GM Les Snead on how he's got this roster built. One thing that is definite about the Rams almost every single year is that while they don't have a ton of superstars, they have a bunch of solid, reliable, consistent players. Their floor is always going to be very high, almost no matter what. And that's a really good situation to be in because you're always going to be winning. You're always going to be competitive in that sense. And it's not about, when you're a team like the Rams who's always in the playoffs, it's not about getting to the playoffs. It's how far you're going to go. Because the Rams are a threat to make it to the Super Bowl every single year. They make it because of that high floor and consistency that they have. So the Rams are in very few teams in that spot where like I said, they could be a threat to run to the Super Bowl every year. Very few teams can say that about themselves. So the Rams being one of those few is very exciting, and another reason why I'm high on them in 2025, because they will be in that same position again. So now 2024 is done. Let's jump into the Rams offseason. The biggest move that they made was extending their star running back Kyren Williams, giving him a 3-year, $33 million extension. Congratulations to you, Kyren Williams. He's been a mainstay on that offense. He has grown into a fantastic football player. I've really grown to like watching Kyren Williams. So to see him play well and get a big contract, congratulations to you. You very much deserve it. And the Rams very much will need him even more this year. So other than that, excuse me, I don't know why my throat feels a little clammy. That's a little weird. Like my chest right here just feels a little constricted. Is that wrong? Like obviously it's not great. I don't want to say constricted. That's weird. I'm not going to talk about it too much. We're going to try and truck through it. But continuing, let's get into the free agency aspect of this team for the offseason. And so looking at what they added on the offensive side, the big one is Davante Adams. Let me tell you something. Davante Adams is going to be really good for the Rams this year. Along with Puka Nacua, this should be a really fun receiver duo to watch. Davante Adams, people have forgotten about Davante Adams a little bit because he's a veteran, he's older, and he's been on some bad football teams. He was with the Raiders, which were not good when he was there, and then he got traded to the Jets midway through last year, and guess what? The Jets were awful in 2024. So now he's going to be on a good football team with a good quarterback, a veteran quarterback. Both guys are in their mid-30s. They're savvy. They're smart. There is no way that this connection isn't just great. There's no way. There's simply no way. I am so excited to watch Matthew Stafford throwing passes to Davante Adams. This is either going to be, at the bare minimum, this is going to be a solid connection that's reliable, but this has the potential to be a really good connection. Like, we're talking over 1,000 yards, 8+ touchdowns. This is what I'm expecting and what I'm thinking Davante Adams will do. I'm that confident because I'm a guy that is still very high on Davante Adams. I have not forgotten how good Davante Adams is, despite that he's not been that productive because he's been on bad football teams. I think now that he's on a great football team, he is going to show that, and he's going to remind everybody that Davante Adams is that dude. But continuing on the list, they also brought Bertain Covey to provide depth. They brought in DJ Humphries and David Quessenberry to provide depth at tackle. They brought in Coleman Shelton to be their new starting center, which is fine. So they added some quality pieces on the offensive line. Didn't do a whole lot, but brought a really good receiver in Davante Adams. And then you look on the defensive side, they didn't really do a whole lot here either, but they brought in Nathan Landman to be one of their starting linebackers. And then they brought in Poona Ford at defensive tackle. I mentioned Poona Ford a little bit when I was talking about my 49ers video with one of their defensive tackles that they drafted. But Poona Ford is a guy that I have really grown to be a fan of because looking at some of his highlights, looking at what other players, offensive linemen, have thought of him and said about him, he is a very annoying football player to deal with because he is shorter, but good God, does he punch really, really hard. He's got strong hands. His hands explode off the ball. And when you're a little bit shorter, the leverage, oh my goodness. I can see why. I'm going to cut the graphic for 1 second because think about it like this. You have two offensive linemen, and they're going like this, they go like this, and they're trying to get leverage, right? Low man wins. When you got Poona Ford, who's like right here, and you got a guy like right here, it's a little bit bigger, you push, you already have that leverage, but also as a lineman, you're supposed to grab right here in the shoulder, or not in the shoulder pads, but in the chest, right? With your hands. You got to grab right here. So you're not supposed to grab right here on the shoulder pads because that's a holding penalty, right? We all know that. So instinctively, when you get meat like this and you start getting pushed backwards, what do? You put your hands outside so you can brace yourself and use all of your muscles and balance out the weight a lot easier. But because you're pushing like this, you really got to have strong forearm strength in order to compete and really match. So when you got a guy that's pushing up against you like that has good leverage and good strength, but he's shorter than you, you can see how that's a very annoying blend to go up against. And guys like Jason Kelsey have said numerous times that the hardest defender or defensive lineman they've had to face is Poona Ford, because his size and power is such a unique blend that it is very annoying to go up against. So you add that along with an already strong defensive line and edge group. Oh my goodness, there's no way Poona Ford isn't a big time contributor for this Rams defense. I really like this move, and I've really grown to be a fan of Poona Ford. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what he brings to this Rams defensive line, and I think he makes them that much better. So all the rambling about Poona Ford aside, even though I think it's right that I do that, let's look at what they lost in free agency. And on the list here, the biggest one on the offense is, of course, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp was drafted by the Rams a long time ago. He was the Super Bowl MVP, had a Triple Crown winner in 2021. So he was great for a little bit. But since that 2021 campaign, he really hasn't been himself. He's been a little bit more mediocre. He's also dealt with injuries. And the breakup between him and the Rams was inevitable to me at this point. They tried at the trade deadline. They tried trading Cooper Kupp. They tried finding a suitor for him in this offseason. It was clear that they wanted to go in different ways, and so they let him go. He ends up going to Seattle, back to his hometown to play for the Seahawks, which great for him. And they lose a valuable asset at wide receiver. But that being said, I mean, like I said, he's been mediocre. So it's not a big loss in terms of the production on the field as of late, but in terms of who the guy is and what he brought to your locker room as a leader, that sucks. That sucks, as Cooper Kupp was one of the longest tenured Rams on their roster. So losing a guy like that is always going to be negatively impactful no matter what. So losing him does suck. They also lost Demarcus Robinson, who was a reliable receiver for them. He's been just a solid, reliable fringe starter in the NFL. Not great, but he's a guy that if you need him to step in and play a couple games and play like a wide receiver 3, he can do that for you. He can play in a pinch. So losing that depth does stink, but they brought in some depth to replace him, which fine, get younger, get cheaper. That's how the NFL works. It is a business after all. They also lost Tyler Johnson at wide receiver, which fine, whatever. They lost Hunter Long at tight end. We'll talk about Terrence Ferguson in the draft and how I thought there was an upgrade there. And then they lost Joseph Noteboom as his backup tackle. That stinks, but I like the guys that they brought in to be backups as depth now. And then they traded away Jonah Jackson to Chicago. Jonah Jackson was good, but he's dealt with some injuries. So you're just looking to find someone that's maybe a little bit healthier on that offensive line that can just be a little bit more available. But Jonah Jackson's a solid player, so losing him does hurt this offensive line a little bit. But at the same time, I understand why it was done. Then you look at the defensive side. They didn't lose a whole lot other than really depth. On the defensive line, they lost Michael Hutt and Neville Gallimore. They lost edge rusher Rashad Weaver. Then they lost defensive tackle Bobby Brown, who's going to be one of the top guys in Carolina, probably the third guy behind Derek Brown and Tershawn Wharton, but he's going to be a valuable asset for them. And they also lost linebackers Jake Hummel and Christian Roseboom, so valuable depth that they lost there. So the Rams, I like what they added in free agency, but I feel like they lost a little bit more depth compared to what they added. So is there an improvement there? Maybe not, but it's not as significant. There's not enough significant losses or additions on offense or defense to where this team is significantly different either way. I think this team is still mostly the same on paper where they were on that point. But then you look at their draft class, and they didn't have a lot to hold or do a whole lot with their draft class. They didn't have a lot of picks. And so with their first round pick, they ended up trading down to get more picks. So they had more darts to throw at the board. And their first throw was tight end Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon. I like this pick a lot. Tyler Higbee, their starting tight end, has dealt with injuries and has been inconsistent because of it. Terrence Ferguson is a really reliable receiving tight end. He can find the hole in zones. He's got good speed, strong hands. He is a really solid receiver, and he's not going to have to be on the field that much, so he can just play, just be in the rotation, do what he does best. And he does need to bulk up a little bit just so he can develop as a blocker, so he can be a more complete tight end. That would be the best case scenario. But I think Terrence Ferguson in the future is going to be a valuable weapon for this offense. And whether it's Matthew Stafford or somebody else in the future, he is going to be a reliable target, and that's what the the Rams really do need, especially with young guys, because they don't have a lot of youth for receiving targets, I should say. I almost said wide receiver. No, like receiving weapons in general, they don't have a lot of solid youth. So bringing in Terrence Ferguson is a good piece to start with that. Then they drafted edge rusher Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. This one I really like a lot because Josiah Stewart has the upside to be a starter, but why would they do that when they already have Byron Young and Jared Verse? Well, let me tell you why. Because Josiah Stewart, very strong, very quick, high effort, relentless pass rusher, good speed to power. This is a guy that is going to complement Jared Verse and Byron Young well. And what you want in an edge rotation, if you can have 3 starting level players in your rotation, not just 2, not only does that help your depth, of course, it helps keep your guys fresh, and it makes your defensive line that much stronger, where your backups can play just as strong as your starters, and that's what you want. This defensive line is going to be really, really good this year for the Rams, and drafting guys like Josiah Stewart are going to be part of the reason why, is because they have really, really good depth along with great starters. So Josiah Stewart, really like the pick. I like the upside. He could be a starter in a couple of years or a starting level player in a couple of years. While I don't know how much snaps he gets, definitely he is going to play an important role on this Rams team. And so look out for him. I'm excited to see what he does because he should be a good complement behind Byron Young and Jared Verse. And then, speaking of compliments, you look at running back Jarquez Hunter in the 4th round out of Auburn. Another short guy. He's 5'9". Us short guys got to stand by each other. We got to stick together. So I'm going to be rooting for him from that sense. But he is a solid, strong runner. He's not like a powerful runner. He's not really a speed back per se, right? He runs a 4.4 at the combine. But what he does do well, he's got good agility. He zigs, he zags, he jumps in and out of cuts really quickly. And he gets to the sideline quickly because of that. And he also has great contact balance. He does not go down very easily. And he also has some experience catching out of the backfield. He is a very reliable, consistent role player for this Rams offense, I think. And you have Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. I think he rounds out a wide receiver running back trio that can do a little bit of everything, that has versatility, and overall is just very sturdy and reliable, which is reflective of all 3 of these guys. I know Kyren Williams has dealt with his injuries, but for the most part, he's been healthy and really good. So it's not that much of an issue for me. So Jarquez Hunter, I really like this pick because what he brings to the running back room and really rounds out that group. And then you look at Ty Hamilton in the 5th round out of Ohio State. And Ty Hamilton, while his lower body needs a little bit of work, his upper body is incredible. Oh my God. Not only did he bench more reps than anybody at the combine, you look at his tape and his upper body strength is ridiculous. His upper body strength alone manhandles offensive linemen. He pushes them back like it's nobody's business. Certified people mover. He goes through double teams. Even though he's undersized, his strength is just off the charts. And if you can refine his technique as a pass rusher and get his lower body to really match what he can do with his upper body, you're talking about a defensive tackle that in a year or so, when he develops, will could eventually be a starting level player in his own right. But in the rotation between Poona Ford, Kobe Turner, and of course Braden Fisk, that guy's your 4th defensive tackle. Holy smokes, that's great value. And he could be a very valuable asset for the Rams in a couple years. So again, another big reason why I think the Rams are going to be good is because of guys like Ty Hamilton and the depth and excitement that he's going to provide to that defensive line. And then you look at a potential linebacker replacement in Chris Paul Jr., not to be confused with the NBA star Chris Paul, but this version of Chris Paul, is a very fast linebacker. He runs sideline to sideline. He is also very instinctive in the run game. He is very good against the run. Not only, like I said, he's instinctive, he gets downhill. He is a very aggressive, willing tackler. He throws himself at blockers, high effort, high energy, closes quickly, and then in the passing game, while he needs to improve in his overall zone coverage, he can match running backs and tight ends. So he's competitive there. That's an asset that's going to be very valuable, especially in the NFC West, where you have James Conner, Trey McBride. In Seattle, you have the strong running game that they might have with Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, and even San Francisco, like George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. So he's going to match up with those guys pretty well, and you can see why they picked him up. He fits really well with what the Rams are trying to do, but also he's going to be a good piece that goes up against some of the West weapons in the NFC West, which he did good at covering when he was in college. And then you look at the last receiver or pick in the 7th round, wide receiver Konata Muntfield out of Pitt. While he didn't run very well at the combine, it was a little underwhelming. In college, he averaged over 15 yards a catch, so big playmaking ability. And he also has some versatility where he's going to line up inside, he can line up outside. The Rams wide receiver depth isn't great, so I think he's going to make this team. But I think he has enough to bring to the table to be a solid depth player in a couple of years or so. Going to be on special teams and probably be a solid gunner. But he has some upside. I like it. And like I said, because the Rams' depth is not great, I'm kind of stuttering right now. I apologize. He has a chance to make the team and carve out a role for himself. So I'm excited for him. He has an opportunity. And so here's to hoping he doesn't make that go to waste. I think he will make that opportunity and make the most of it. So this draft class was very encouraging. These guys were good. They do a really good job. They did a really good job in college, and they match up well with what they're trying to do on offense or on defense, both, I should say, on what the team is trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. But also, these guys match up well, especially with Chris Paul, match up well with what they're trying to do against their divisional opponents and what they do well. So the draft isn't just about getting players that can play well for you, execute your scheme and whatnot. You know, kind of like what the Bills did with drafting Maxwell Harrison. 4.2 speed. Guess who runs a 4.2 speed? Xavier Worthy, the Bills' biggest rival. So you draft players not just to execute your scheme and fit with what you do well, but also compete with what your division has. Because you got to remain competitive in your division, and a lot of that goes into who you draft. Because, like I said with Chris Paul, he matches well with running backs and tight ends. He did that really good in college. So you look at the NFC West that's filled with good tight ends and good running backs. There you go. And that's a direct translation as to what I'm talking about. So that's what I really like about this draft class. There wasn't very many picks, but I thought they made the most of them. And I think trading down ended up being a good decision for them. So they got more picks from it. They made the most of it. They addressed a lot of needs. Very good job for the Rams in this draft class. So overall, is this team improved? Sure, I can say that. The players that they added in the draft and what they added in free agency, sure, they can be a little bit more improved. Is it much of a needle mover where it's like a noticeable big improvement? No, but it is enough to say, okay, if you wanted to lean one way or another, I can lean towards improved. Fine by me. Is it significant? No, but that is how I feel about the Rams. So let's look at their schedule and break it down. So looking at it, their first 7 are heavily in their favor. And then after the bye, they have a solid mix of good and bad teams. So overall, the schedule really does work out for them. So let's break it down and go week by week. Week 1 is against the Texans at home. I think that's a win. The Texans' offensive line is garbage. It is dog water. The Rams' defensive line is going to have a field day. They are going to go nuts on this offensive line. And I think CJ Stroud is going to be on the ground a lot. And I think it's not going to be a good first showing for offensive coordinator Nick Cali, who is going to be coaching against his former team. So that does not bode well. I think the Rams match up greatly against the Houston Texans. Give me the Rams to win week 1. And then week 2, you go on the road against another AFC South opponent, my Tennessee Titans. Guess what? That is another win. While the Titans' offensive line should be a much better unit than the Texans' offensive line, the Rams' defensive line is still probably going to have their wins. They're still going to be probably the better team or better unit because they have continuity. The Titans' offensive line, even though I think it's going to be good this year, does not. So there's that matchup. And also they're going up against a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward. And if you can get pressure on a young quarterback, you can force mistakes, especially one like Cam Ward, who is a gunslinger. He's not afraid to take shots down the field. He's not afraid to throw it into tight windows, even if they're not there. So you might be able to get some turnovers off of Cam Ward as well. So the Rams, again, match up really well. Give me the Rams for their next win, starting off 2-0. Now we get into one of the best games of the year. Eagles, Rams, week 3 in Philly. Oh my goodness, this rematch is going to be cinema. This Rams defensive line against this Eagles offensive line should be a fantastic matchup to watch. This is an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. Classic matchup. The Rams, like I said, really ran well with the Eagles in the divisional round last year, and they're probably one of the few teams that can truly give them a run for their money. Do I think they win? Probably not. I still think the Eagles have the best roster in football. They're also at home, so that's going to help them out a lot, especially at Lincoln Financial Field. Their home field advantage is really good. So the Rams are going to be in a tough spot. It's a winnable game for sure, but I think the Eagles will pull it out, giving them their first loss. And then week 4, you have another AFC South opponent. So 3 AFC South opponents in the first 4 weeks. That bodes very well. See what I'm talking about here? The AFC South is probably going to suck this year for the most part. So you got the Colts, and the Colts is the worst one of the bunch. I think the Colts are going to suck. And with an offensive line that's going to be worse than what it was last year, the Rams, again, will probably have another field day. They're probably going to go nuts. And with a quarterback like Daniel Jones back there, oh boy, you know the meme with the guy behind the tree like rubbing his hands together? Like that's what the Rams defensive line is looking at with the Colts right now. So that's another win, and that is a 3-1 start for the Rams to finish September. And then you go to October, 49ers, Thursday Night Football. I think the Rams sweep the 49ers this year. I think with the 49ers being in a retooling phase, and their offensive line not being great, their defense having some problems and going to have some growing pains with all the players that they lost, I think the Rams match up really well here, and I think they get the win. So give me another win here. So again, strong, favorable schedule. And then you have the Ravens in Baltimore. Oh my, this is going to be a fun one. Another really fun one. I'm excited to see what Lamar Jackson can do against this defensive line. They're going to be getting after him. They're going to try and get him down. But the thing is, Lamar Jackson, you can't get him down. He is evasive. You blink and he is gone, running up the sideline, burning your defense for a 30-yard run. So Lamar Jackson is one of these few quarterbacks that I think will actually be able to contain this defensive line a little bit just with his sheer mobility alone. It's going to be a big test for this bunch. But I will tell you, if this Rams defensive line can make things problematic, that's going to bode really well for them. But right now, I think Baltimore overall is a better football team. I think they're the best team in the AFC right now. So I think they win this game. Excuse me, my throat is dry. And then you are on the road against Jacksonville in London. You're going overseas across the pond to London, and I think you win. The Jaguars' offensive line should be improved, but it's going to be no match for this Rams defensive line. I keep on bringing them up because I expect them to be an elite unit. And what's a common trend with a lot of these games early on? Their offensive lines are not as good. They do not match up well. So in that sense, the Rams should continuously look good and have field days with a lot of these teams. And the same is with Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence, you look on tape, you get pressure on Trevor Lawrence and he falls the freak apart. He falls apart like a kid smashing a Lego Millennium Falcon or X-Wing onto the ground after tripping and falling. So yeah, that does not bode well for Jacksonville. I think the Rams win this game in London. Now you get into your Week 8 bye, and that's solid, smack dab in the middle, as balanced as all things should be, quote Thanos. And then you come off the bye against the New Orleans Saints. Wow, that's a team that's going to be bad this year. This team overall matches up really well. Give me the Rams to get another win. So what are we looking at right now? We are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the road against 49ers. That's 7. You're looking at a 7-2 start right now. The Rams are looking hot. Hot. But then at home against Seattle with the Seahawks. I think they split this year, and something tells me that they're probably going to split on the road. So the Seahawks in this case will win this game and break their solid win streak and give them their third loss. And then they're at home against the Bucs. This will be a really fun football game because the Bucs offensive line is really good going up against the Rams D line, but also Baker Mayfield versus Matthew Stafford, Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans going against these young corners. That's going to be a tall task for them. And if the Bucs offensive line can slow down this defensive line and give Baker Mayfield time, he will pick this defense apart. He is a gunslinger. He does, just like Cam Ward, like I talked about a minute ago, he's not afraid to throw the ball into windows even if they're not there. The only thing is the Bucs have real talent. They have continuity that the Titans don't. So I think in this case, the Bucs will be able to fare well, and I think they actually beat the Rams. I think they match up well against this team. So there is that. That's 2 straight losses for the Rams. Not looking great. Fine. Then you're on the road against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers are going to be better than what they were last year, but the Rams are simply better across almost every front, if not all fronts. That is another win. And then on the road against the Arizona Cardinals, I think they sweep. So that is a win in the start December and to end December. And then you have the Lions. I think this one might be a loss. Even though I think the Rams might be a little bit more talented right now, the Lions offense should continue to be very strong. And I think this defense will be formidable enough to stay competitive. And with where the Lions are right now, I don't know. I have faith in Dan Campbell. I'm kind of a Dan Campbell fan, so there might be a little bit of bias in here involved. I will admit that to you. I think the Lions win this game. It is at home, though, so the Rams have that advantage. We'll have to see. It's going to be a fun game. I'm excited to see what happens. Also, it's in December, so playoff implications are going to be very heavy with this one. And then on the road against Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, I had them losing in the first one. If they're splitting, then that means this one is a win. And then against the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football, this one's going to be tough because at this point, the Falcons offense should be really strong. The offensive line should be strong. Their weapons should be strong. But this defense is going to have a tall task going up against Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, and Devontae Adams. I think the Falcons are going to keep this one close. Honestly, they could pull off the upset here. I think the Rams are a little bit better, so they probably win. But this one's kind of a toss-up. I'm not really sure who's going to win. And also, it's in Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be trying to push for a playoff spot, so a lot's going to be riding on the season for them. So they're going to be pushing really hard. So this is going to be a fun matchup. One of the lesser Monday Night Football games of the year, but not a bad one at all. So be interested to see what happens with this game and also with heavy playoff implications as well. So, like I said, the schedule is favorable for the Rams. Their first 7 games are easy for the most part, and the rest of the schedule is pretty balanced, where I think they can navigate it pretty well. And looking at what the Rams have, I think that's going to be the case. And I mentioned earlier that, this is how I feel about the Rams. Let me elaborate on that a little bit more. I think the Rams are still Super Bowl contenders. Like I said, they're going to make the playoffs, and they're a threat to run all of the way because of all the reasons I mentioned at the beginning, whether it's their solid floor, all the depth that they have, especially on their defensive line, the veterans, the continuity, their good coaches. They have a lot of reason to be a threat to go back to the Super Bowl, and those are all the reasons why. And if you meet them in the playoffs, you're in for the game of your life. You're in the game of a lifetime because the Rams are going to throw everything they have at you and then some. And if you're not prepared, you're going to be smashed into the ground. So the Rams, I am very high on this team. I like this team a lot. And they could very much go back to the Super Bowl in 2025. So with that being said, what are some strengths and weaknesses to look at for this team? Strengths, there's a ton across the board. Looking at the screen now, number 1 is quarterback. Matthew Stafford is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's getting older, but guess what? He's still good. He's still productive, and he is exactly what the Rams need right now. So that bodes well for them. Running back, I love Kyren Williams. I like Blake Corum. And then Where's it at? Jarquez, Hunter. I don't know why I can't remember names like right after I mentioned them. I guess just because I'm like trying to process all this information in my head at once. I can look at my script, have all the information that I want to talk about, and then I kind of branch it off and follow the script as I go. So it's kind of hard to keep it all in the brain at once. So I apologize for that. But I mean, the running back room overall is very strong for the Rams, and so that's why it is a strength. And then wide receiver at the top because of Adams and Nakua. This is why it's a strength. You also can't forget about Tutu Atwell either. He's a solid slot receiver and will be an unsung hero of this team potentially. So interesting to see what he does with two good receivers on the outside. That should open up a lot of opportunities for him to do some good things. And then the depth isn't great, but what they have at the top is very, very good. So it's enough for me to consider it a strength of this team. And then defensive line and edge rusher, I have made it clear enough. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart, and then on the interior, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Poona Ford, Ty Hamilton. This is one of the best, if not the best, defensive line in all of football. I expect this defensive line to be top 5. I expect it to be fantastic. And so that is what I'm going to go with. They are a strength, most definitely a strength. Probably the best part about this entire football team is this position group, and I expect it to be. It is going to be fantastic in 2025. So, with that being said, what are some weaknesses? They don't have a lot. The most notable, definite weakness on this team is linebacker, just because there is a lot of newness, and they had some turnover, so we'll have to see what happens. It's a lot of an unknown for the Rams right now. But with the defensive line that is so good, that should help them out a ton. And then I put a question mark next to it, the secondary. You can make the argument for and against because they really didn't change all that much. You still have Keller Witherspoon, Quentin Lake, and Darius Williams as your corners, and you still have Cam Kitchens and Cam Curl at safety. These are all solid players. These are all good players. I like them. So you can make the argument for continuity's sake, they will be better. They will be improved. And then you could also say, because they didn't really add anybody, that could also hurt them. So we'll have to see what happens. But again, with a strong defensive line, they should have a good advantage. That should help them out a ton because the pressure is going to be immense. Quarterbacks are going to be making mistakes, which is going to allow them to break up more passes, pick off more passes, and in turn will have them play with more confidence, more swagger, and that is what you want out of your secondary, while the defensive line does a lot of dirty work and allows these secondary guys to pop off and play well. So I'm confident in them. It's just I'm not sure if they're going to be a strength or a weakness. Time will only tell for right now. So with that being said, for the Rams, I have them finishing second in the division right now. Only one loss against a like opponent compared to Seattle is what split these two teams. I would even say right now that the Rams are probably the safer pick to win the division. I just picked the Seattle Seahawks to win because that's how it shaped out. But also, why not? Let Seattle win the division. Let's have them be good. The NFL is good when the Seahawks are good. So, fine by me. It's whatever. And for the Rams fans, this really shouldn't matter because you're going to be in the playoffs. And again, it does not matter because the Rams are going to be a threat to go all the way to the Super Bowl no matter where they end up in the playoffs. They could be a wild card team or a division winner. It does not matter. So, ultimately, what is my record prediction for the Los Angeles Rams? Here it is. Boom. 10-7. I think they got a couple games on their schedule that they don't match up well against compared to some other ones, but there is no unwinnable game on their schedule. Every single, even the tough ones, like the Eagles, like the Ravens, like the Bucks, even the Seahawks both times. These are tough football teams, but they are very winnable. There's a scenario where they win all of them, right? The Rams, I guess they could go 17-0. That's in realm of possibility. It would be hard, but the odds of it are greater than 0. So that's positive for the Rams. And so 10-7, it's not going to be reflective of what I think their team looks like. It's just how it all shaped out when I did the schedule prediction. And again, they're going to get into the playoffs and they're going to be a threat no matter where they start. So that's the big takeaway for the Rams and why I think they're going to be really good in 2025. So let's look at some storylines and look at some things that I'm going to be watching for. And number one is, will this be the last ride for Matthew Stafford? Because he's getting up there in age. He thought about retirement. There was a contract issue with them earlier this offseason. They got that figured out. And so this could very well be the last year for Matthew Stafford. Because if it truly is, I might jump the gun a little bit here. Then going into the third storyline, we'll jump back to the second one in a moment. It might be Super Bowl or bust for the Rams. Because they have no future at quarterback after Matthew Stafford. They have nobody. They don't have anything in mind. They don't have a young quarterback they're developing. They're probably not going to finish with a high enough draft pick to get a quarterback in what's supposed to be a stacked quarterback draft class this year. Presumably with Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway, just to name a couple guys. But we'll have to see what happens. Maybe one of these guys slips a little bit because their performance isn't as good and the Rams can maybe sneak up and get them. Maybe they trade up a few spots to get one of these guys if one falls. Maybe that happens. Obviously, that's a far ways away. We're talking about what can happen in next April in 2026. So that being said, though, the Rams need to find an answer very quickly, because if Matthew Stafford retires, the Rams could instantly go from Super Bowl contender to a lot worse. Because if you don't have a quarterback, nothing else matters. So they need to get that figured out. The Rams have a very uncertain future without Matthew Stafford. So that needs to be figured out soon. And that's what makes this year Super Bowl or bust, because it could be the last year for Matthew Stafford. So you want to go out on a high note for him and for your organization and end things very well strong going into the sunset. And then I kind of mentioned the fourth one. Rams have an uncertain future. That is why, because of the quarterback position. But the last one is the defense is going to be very good. I've already mentioned it enough. But if this Rams defense is not good or isn't as good as I think it's going to be, I would be genuinely shocked. One of my few bold predictions that I would say I'm guaranteeing you is that the Rams are going to be good. I guarantee you that the Rams defense is going to be very good. And so if it's not, I would be absolutely shocked. So with that being said, those are my storylines, and that's going to do it for me for today's video talking about the Rams. I hope you guys sincerely have enjoyed this breakdown, and if you guys have enjoyed and made it this far, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the YouTube channel. It helps a lot. I'm trying to grow and spread my football passion to more and more people. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers before the 2025 regular season ends. So if you guys can do that for me, that'd be fantastic. I would love it if you guys would. You guys are doing a fantastic job right now. So continue the momentum. Let's keep it going. We're building a community here, and I'm very grateful that you guys would do that. Thank you all very much. Secondly, where do you think the Rams go in 2025? Do you think they go all the way to the Super Bowl? Do you think they lose in a certain place in the playoffs? If so, tell me where. Along with, what do you think happens in 2026? What do you think of this Rams defensive line? Everything we talked about, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Please, please do. I genuinely want to see more comments. I want to hear what y'all have to say, because I like to have conversations. That's the whole point of making this show, is to talk to you guys and have a good, honest conversation, clean conversation about football. Nothing argumentative, nothing crazy, just good, simple, genuine conversation between people that love the game. So please let me know. Please leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Thirdly, make sure you guys follow me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. I cannot contain myself. It would be very much appreciated if you would. That would help me continue to grow the community that we're trying to build. And then lastly, if you are a fan of any of these teams in the 2025 preview series, or you know someone who is a fan of any of these teams on the preview series, tell them to come to the You Make Take and check it out. I got every single NFL team for you to go check out, barring the Seahawks, which will come out a day after this one. By the time you guys probably see this, the Seahawks one will probably be out already. So in that case, go check them out, get the word out, get people, if you know that they're fans of a specific team, tell them to come check out my breakdown of their favorite team. I have the whole AFC, the whole NFC. It is all out here for you guys to enjoy. So please get the word out. Please tell people. And I think they're really great breakdowns. So highly, highly recommend that you go check them out. So with that being said, that is going to do it for this video today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. And as always, I will see you all, boom, next time.